Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today, and welcome to this upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? All right, so maybe two quick things. In the next couple of days, there's going to be a major overhaul to downstairs studio. I'm going to spend the majority of my time down here now, I think, working on videos. Upstairs, the room is very small and really hot. I can't put an air conditioner in there. And for the last 6 years, it's just been too hot to record in there, even though I do. And I figured, well, since I have all of this room and I spend a lot of time down here anyway, why not just designate this as the full-time studio and move everything down here, and really just turn it into my research studio room. That way you guys can actually see, like, put the map behind here. I did some new stuff with the bookshelf. That's not even done. But you guys, at least then I can be recording and turn and share the map with you. I got a lot of different ideas of what I want to do. Also, I want to thank Sully, Rock and Reef Sully. Rock and Reef on Father's Day sent me $100 for Father's Day. And I used that $100 plus another couple hundred that I had saved up. And I got a new AKG mic and new condenser mic instead of a USB mic. That's what I'm using right now. I'm hoping the sound is much clearer and a lot better, because it's a heck of a lot nicer of a mic. So, update on what is going to be occurring, and let's get into today's experience. Right, so today's experience comes to us via husband and wife, Jenny and Matthew, and they had their experience and still live in the same area that they had their experience at. In a remote northern area, Shushan County, Idaho. They will never forget the day they encountered what we know as Dogman. It was September 2018, and it was Monday and Tuesday, the 24th and 25th of September. So just a couple years prior, Matthew had inherited his grandfather's ranch. It was not like a turnkey ranch. When they moved to it, they had to do a lot of work. Matthew is fortunate enough. He works for a computer firm in California, and he can work from home. He's an IT guy, so he works from home, and Jenny has a fortunate life of being a stay-home wife, caregiver to their 2 children. And so when they had the opportunity to move from California to Idaho, they took it. They didn't want to raise their 2 children in California. I guess the way everything was going during that time, and they had decided that Jenny would homeschool the 2 kids, and Matthew could just work from home. They could revitalize this ranch that his grandfather had left them and live peacefully and kind of away from, not really off the grid, but away from people. And they had made some friends in the surrounding areas, in the little towns around the area. So their kids, as they got older, could have friends and such. But more or less, this was for both of the adults' sanity. They had both lived in California for the majority of their lives, and just really wanted a break, a chance to just get away from the rat race. And when they had inherited this was in 2014, his grandfather had passed away, and he had remembered going there when he was a kid, and it is still to this day a very special place for him. He truly loves the area and still does, even after their just unbelievably terrifying nights. So they move out in 2014. There's a lot of work to be done. And they had flown out and driven out to the ranch prior to moving out. Got some estimates on a whole renovation of everything, and what to expect, this and that, because Matthew, growing up, only spent very limited time. He wasn't raised there, but it was something that he remembers loving. And when he was younger, the place was so much different. His grandfather was a younger guy. His grandmother had passed very early on in his grandfather's life. I believe it was like right around the time that Matthew's dad had been born. So he didn't get a chance to meet his grandmother. But his grandfather had really made this ranch just a beautiful place. But as he got older, he couldn't do a lot of the work anymore. And it did fall in minor disrepair. Of course, there was a lot of plants, a lot of nature reclaiming and such. An old barn that had actually been very, very nice barn when Matthew was younger had to be torn down. There was they had to dig a new well, just a lot of things and a lot of money to put into this place to make it their home. So at around 2016, they had it for 2 years, and excuse me, I'm sorry, and sunk a lot of money into it and made it what it was, made it their home. And it was now this just very special, beautiful place for them and their kids. A whole new barn system set up, a place where they have some horses. They could teach their kids how to ride horses. A whole renovation on the interior and exterior of the home. And it was just absolutely beautiful. Still is to this day. Now, at the end of summer, Matthew had received kind of some sort of bonus, and they had been talking about what they were going to do with their bonus or his bonus. Were they going to buy a newer SUV, or possibly put a pool in? And the kids were getting older. They're still kids, obviously, but they were getting older, and it would be just another great thing to have on their ranch, their dream home, to have a pool. They don't have to go elsewhere to everything will be right there. They can ride their horses, they can go swimming, they can do their schoolwork. Everything is just self-contained. So that's what they decided on. And he had gotten his bonus. They had contacted some pool people who dig the pool and put in the pool itself, and they had opted to do a salt water instead of chlorine pool. So there's a lot of work to be done in the area, and they had some workers on their property for a couple weeks digging, removing root balls, and just really cleaning it up, putting pavers in, landscaping, everything that goes along with an installation of a pool. Because where I live in upstate New York, it's pretty much people have yards, you dig a pool, boop, and maybe put a fence up, throw some pavers down, it's good. But out there, it's a whole different ball game. You are in the depths of Idaho. One, you have to find someone who is willing to do the work. Then you have to find all of the necessary things. So for about 2 weeks, they had a group of guys on the property, and it was much more louder than it had been. The guys had finished up, pool was put in, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. So the last day of the workers being there, the foreman or guy in charge of this group had ended up talking to Jenny, and this would be on the 18th of September 2018. Ended up talking to Jenny and saying something along the lines of Matthew was inside doing some work, and he was giving her kind of a rundown on the upkeep on the pumps and everything else that goes along with a saltwater pool. Instead of chlorine, it's managed by saltwater. So he's showing her all of the different things that go along with this pool, how to keep it maintained properly. And the two kids are not in the pool area, but they're off to the side in their side yard, just playing. There's a small wooden swing set up, and the woods are surrounded by woods. So the wood line is probably 150, 200 feet from where the kids are. The pool is a little closer. And the foreman says to Jenny something along the lines of, ma'am, you need to make sure that you keep an eye on your kids when they're outside. And she automatically assumed like that he was talking about the pool, accidental drowning or something. But so she's like, don't worry, they won't even be out here without me and Matthew. And he's like, no. He's like, there's some strange stuff in these woods out here. Maybe you should ask your husband a little bit about what goes on, out here, because he had known Matthew's granddad. There's pretty much what he was saying is there's something out in these woods. You need to keep your kids safe. He's just elaborating. Jenny now thinks that he didn't want her to either get scared right away or for her to just dismiss him as being crazy. And he said something along the lines of, there's something much more dangerous out here than bear and big cat and wolves, ma'am. And I'm just saying this just because it would be a shame, for anything to ever happen to your children, you, or your husband out here. I hope that your husband has, some firearms. I hope he teaches you how to shoot. And that kind of made her think, like, what in the hell is he getting at? Because you just randomly bring up a conversation and he's looking at the kids the whole time as he's talking to her. And she's kind of getting that weird feeling like, is this guy like telling me he's going to come back later and take my kids? That's, as parents, I'm sure many of you guys know, like, as a parent and as a loving parent, you really look at the world differently, And so she kind of dismisses him a little rudely. And her words exactly, I dismissed him a little rudely. Afterward, I had made a phone call and, straightened everything out and thanked him. So he leaves, and they're, Jenny and Matthew and the kids are having dinner, and she brings up what was said. Like, she's like, this guy, the foreman of the pool, was showing me how to, like, backwash and all this other thing with the pool. But he had brought up, like, something about the woods and the mountains out here. There's something out there much more dangerous than bear, big cat, and wolves. And to ask you something about your grandfather, like what your grandfather had believed in or what. And I have no idea what he's talking about, so can you tell me, Matthew? Matthew is just listening to his wife, Jenny, and as she says, tell me what what your grandfather said, because this guy really freaked her out. And, you know, she had told Matthew, like, how she was concerned that this guy was going to come back and, you know, hurt the family. And he's like, that's not what he was talking about. And, you know, he said, there's a reason why I hadn't come out here in so long. You know, my parents had one summer, my parents had been driving out here, and they were going along St. Joe River on the St. Joe Road. They were coming out to get me and bring me back home to California. And when they were driving, they were probably an hour, maybe a little less, from Gramps Ranch. And they had apparently flipped their car. My mom had gotten hurt pretty badly, hurt her back. Dad was okay. But the reason why they had flipped their car was supposedly something, more than one something had run out into the road, purposely had stood in the road between the kind of mountain area, the wooded area, and St. Joe River. My dad swerved and hit the brakes, and the car ended up flipping, just on its roof. What they told the police officers was that it really looked similar to large wolves. And there was, 6 or 7 of them in the road. But these things were just enormous. And police officers, they brought them to the hospital, this and that. And when they finally ended up connecting with Matthew and his granddad and Matthew had driven out to where they were, to the hospital. Privately, Matthew's granddad was talking to Matthew's dad, and Matthew was in the room with both guys, and the father had said, "Dad, what the hell is out here? These things came out of the woods. They looked like a spitting image of a wolf, but, triple the size of a wolf, and ended up standing in the road. They stood bipedally and blocked the road. I probably could have hit one of them with the car, but I was too afraid to, if anything had gone bad, that, whatever." And his granddad had looked at him and said, something along the lines, he had some sort of name that he called them. It wasn't Dogman, but it was very similar to something very similar to werewolves or werewolf. He just doesn't remember the exact term that his granddad had. But he had said, outside, sometimes these things come out. I've seen them down at the ranch. Why do you think I don't let Matthew go out at night? I'll accompany him and this and that. So law enforcement ends up writing it off as wolves had, hindered traffic or whatever and made them crash. Matthew's dad now was aware of some sort of something being out there. His dad did not grow up at this ranch. After his dad had gone into the service, that's when Matthew's granddad had moved out and bought this property. He had grown up in Wyoming somewhere, close to a reservation. But so he was kind of used to, the weather and the vastness, the aloneness, this and that. And after the accident, his mom was fine, but she was hurt pretty bad, bad enough to be in the hospital for a couple days. Matthew's dad and mom had made came to the conclusion that, what we saw was definitely not wolves. I know what you saw, you know what I saw. Apparently, your father knows too. So let's not send Matthew back. And if he's older, he wants to see his grandfather, he can go see his grandfather. But as long as he's, a youth, I don't want to risk it, especially with what your, father's saying to us. And they both agree. Boom. So from that moment on, Matthew, the only time he saw his granddad was when his granddad would come out to visit them in California, which was very, very seldom. Now, when they had moved out here, Matthew and Jenny, there was obviously probate court, this and that, everything documented. And there was a folder, a sealed folder that the lawyer, Matthew's granddad's lawyer, had handed Matthew. And all the paper, this had nothing to do with, the house getting signed over to him, the property. This was just something personal and when he opened it, his grandfather had said, I really regret not spending more time with you. I should have told your parents the truth about what is out in these woods, and I hope you can forgive me. But these things are still out in the woods, and when you do move here, if you ever do move here, or if you use it as like a summer retreat or whatever, all of my rifles and all of my firearms are locked, under lock and key in a gun safe down in the basement. There's also a shelter area, a very small kind of underground bunker, almost similar to like a tornado shelter, but a little bigger. And there was directions of where it was, this and that, and it was in that dilapidated barn. So when they had their new barn built, Matthew had left the accessibility to this sheltered area in that barn. They had checked it out a little bit, and it was not small at all. Definitely not like not like one of those $1 million bunkers that you can buy. But you could tell his granddad had put some money into it. There was another gun safe in there. There was a room with cots and blankets whatnot. There was another smaller room behind that, and a kind of bathroom way in the back with like a compost toilet or whatnot. That kind of middle area there was an old shortwave radio, and survival equipment, toward the front area was a small kind of kitchen area. And he gives the letter, after they're having this conversation, he gives a letter to his wife, and she kind of looks at him like, is that what that shelter is down, in our barn? And he says, yeah, that's what it, is. And she's under the assumption she didn't realize that when they had torn the old barn down and put a new one up in that spot, she didn't realize that there still was this kind of survival bunker under there. They went and looked at it, and, sure enough, he had cleaned it up, and just in case. So they kind of move on. I mean, this is all within the 18th to 19th of these talks between Matthew and Jenny. And then they are on the 24th, which was a Monday. Jenny will never forget any part of those 2 days. It had been fairly warm that Monday, but it had gotten really cold. So he shows her everything, this and that. They're safe. She's kind of confused because, why did you keep this? Are we in danger? What was, she's under the assumption now, because as he described everything, she's thinking Bigfoot. She's like, there's Bigfoot out here? And he said, no, apparently he never saw one. His parents did. His grandfather did. And apparently, according to mom and dad, these things were bipedal, very structured, similar structure, muscle-wise to maybe a Bigfoot, large tail, just very, very canine-like. And she's, for that time being, she was contemplating on leaving. She felt betrayed. And because, one, he had kept that kind of survival bunker, not telling her, and now letting her read this important paperwork. Mind you, his granddad has been dead a couple years. They've been here for a couple years. You're just telling me that this shelter's been here this whole time in our barn, Where is it? Because I've never seen a door going to it. And why haven't you showed me this paperwork? So there's a little bit of upsetness on her end, and with good reason, So now the 24th comes. Obviously she didn't leave. He lets her know, we've been here for 2 years. We haven't seen anything. I wanted to keep the bunker or the survival bunker, pretty much, because my grandfather had put all this money into it. It's up to date. It's got that composting toilet. If something were to ever happen and we had to shelter, we'd be okay. We have something that people don't. He had put money into it, a little bit of upkeep while the barn was getting constructed. So they worked it out. And Monday the 24th is the day that both of their lives changed, and their kids. Now, they're having dinner, and how their house is set up, and their dining room kitchen outlooks their kind of backyard. They can see their pool, they can see the kids' play area, and it's beautiful. Like, they really put a lot of money into this home. They're having dinner. The two kids are on one side of the table. His wife sits at the end where the sliding glass doors are, and he's at the other end. During dinner, he gets this weird look on his face. And Matthew, per Jenny, is, kind of a funny guy. He'll mess with her and, play tricks on her and stuff. He's staring at her, but he's got this weird look on his face. And she looks at him and she goes, "Matthew, stop staring at me. What's your problem?" And she kind of giggles because that's just something that he would do. Like, make a goofy face or, randomly stare at her and just kind of. The oldest kid looks at her and says, "Mommy, Daddy's not looking at you. Daddy's looking at the monsters." And she turns and looks, and in the kids' play area, so you've got the pool, it's got a fence around it, the kids' play area, and there's another kind of fenced-in area because it's fenced in so the kids can't run around or run off out of that area. Some yard, their deck, and then the house. And she turns and she looks and she sees what we know as dogmen. And there's 3 or 4 of them staring directly into the house. And she just jumps up and grabs the youngest child on this side and snaps, like, "Get over here," to the other one. And she stands behind Matthew. And he's still sitting there like, what in the hell? Like, oh my God. He gets up and he brings them all downstairs. And it's finished off basement. He goes in, gets where his grandfather's firearms are. He had brought rifles with him as well and a couple pistols. Things that he had that were his dad's, living in California. They didn't really have a need for it, but he had a couple of family pass downs. He grabs, the largest gun he has, or his grandfather has, old Henry 4570. Proceeds to load it, grabs a pistol, and looks at his wife and says, "Stay down here. Just stay down here. Whatever you do, I'm going to lock the upstairs door. Just, stay down here. Don't make any noise. If you hear anything, bring the kids into the back room and lock that door and get one of the pistols or any kind of shotgun, whatever, and, before anything happens, shoot your. So she's just shook. And as he's going upstairs, she grabs the kids and goes to the back room to where he's gun safe, loading table, everything's there. She proceeds to get a couple of shots. She gets a shotgun, a couple pistols. And she sets the kids, down and says, listen, don't touch anything, and shuts and locks that door. During this period of time, she can hear rifle fire, multiple rifle fire. He runs, probably an hour goes by. She can hear movement upstairs. And then she hears him come downstairs and he yells for her, Jenny, where are you? She opens the back door and he runs in and he grabs 308 and a box of shells. He grabs some more, more rounds for the 45-70, and goes back up. And he says, I think I killed two. They're, not coming near the house, but they're staying around the area of our house. And she's like, all right. So the next couple of hours, will continue to come down and check. The kids eventually end up zonking off, and she brings them out into the kind of living room that's downstairs and turns on TV for them, just to kind of, Daddy's taking care of that. Just don't worry about it. Everything's okay. And after they fall asleep, she goes in and grabs the shotgun that she had and the two pistols and runs upstairs. Locks the door. The gun safe room is locked. So the kids are safe. They're just in this one area sleeping. And she walks around the house. She looks out the back window. She yells for Matthew, and she doesn't hear anything. And then she hears some shooting, and she realizes that he's upstairs. So she goes up, follows the stairs, goes up the stairs, and she's like, Matthew, it's me. Not wanting to scare him and have him think it's one of these creatures in the house and, mistakenly get her. And he kind of looks at her and he's like, where's the kids? Really sternly, something that he's never a mean guy. He's never, yelled at her or the kids, but like, where are the kids? Just real aggressive. And she says, they're sleeping, honey. They're all right. I'm here to help you. What do you need me to do? Do you need more, ammunition? What do you need? And he's like, I can't see anymore. It's dark. I can't see anymore. I don't know where they are. He goes, I keep seeing their eyes out in the woods. He goes, so that's why I'm up here. She goes, but what did you shoot at? He goes, I shot because I thought I saw one, but I didn't. He goes, I didn't hit anything. He goes, it was just, I don't know. And so she looks out the window and she's looking and it's dark, and nothing. No kind of eye shine, nothing. She says, hang on, and goes across the hall into their room, which is on the other side of the house, and that outlooks the front part of their house to where their road / driveway is. And they have about an acre maybe an acre and a half of land in the front until there's woods, all clearing. There's about 3 or 4 acres of clear, and then the wood line all around them. Some periodic trees around for shade of the house and stuff, but mainly it's cleared out. She's in their room and she's out looking, and they have one of those kind of balcony that you can just step off into and outlook, your front yard or whatever, or more or less something just to open the doors when it's summertime to get fresh air. But she stands out there and she's looking, and she doesn't hear anything at first, and then she hears what she thought was breathing, and she looks down into the driveway. Their garage is right under, their garage door is right under where their bedroom would be. And she looks, and there's 2 dogmen standing right there, staring up at her, growling, and she hears their growl and their teeth snapping, as they're growling, they're closing their mouths and stuff. She immediately just pumps the shotgun and just shoots down into the driveway. Not thinking, just does it. It's reactionary. And she knows how to shoot, not because of Matthew. Matthew had, given her a refresher course and stuff and taught her more about firearms, but her dad used to shoot a lot. And he had taken her and her sister and taught them how to shoot when they were younger. So she's fairly knowledgeable, mildly knowledgeable about firearms. But boom, and which, not thinking and being not that experienced, as she shot that shotgun, how she had it pointed downward, it was off of her shoulder a little bit. So when it kicked, it came up and just thunked her shoulder. She ended up dropping the shotgun. But she ended up hitting one of them, and it made this loud yelp and kind of stumbled off, and the other one just took off really fast into the woods. The other one stumbled off and it fell, picked itself back up, and ran into the woods as well. Not very quickly. As this happens, he runs in. "Are you okay?" She's like, "The gun fell out of my hand. I can't believe it, but I did hit one. I hit one." The sun's in the horizon, and they're now looking, and they can see all of these, not a lot, but maybe 3 or 4 sets of eyes in the woods, these red dots, and they see them just for a few minutes and then gone. He's like, "Go check the kids, make sure they're all right. But when you're going downstairs, don't run down and just walk blindly into the downstairs, not the basement, but the first floor. Don't walk blindly into it in case one got in the house." He's like, "I doubt one did. We didn't hear anything, can't hear anything, but just in case." She does, and he's still up looking, and he's checking all the rooms to make sure nothing had gotten in there. She goes down and checks the kids. Sure enough, the kids are out like a light still. And shortly after, Matthew comes down, and it's now about 6:30 in the morning. And he's like, "Are you okay? You know, sun's coming up. I'm going to wait until the sun is up, and I'm going to take a look and see, you know, what's out there and see where the ones that I hit are, check and see if I can see any blood on the one that you hit, grab our shotgun." Day wakes, he does everything that he said he's going to do. Now we're into the 25th. So he goes outside, looks, and he knows right where the two that he did get were. I said were because they're not there now. What he can see is drag marks. So sometime when it got really dark and he couldn't see, they must have came and dragged the other two back into the woods. He walks around, grabs the shotgun, sees a large blood trail because she had just pumped it right into this thing's face. And there's clumps of hair, clumps of flesh, and he proceeds to walk out, goes in right to the tree line and looks. And just faintly he hears growling. But he doesn't see anything, and he's got his rifle, he's got a pistol, but he's got the shotgun, and he racks it, and he just shoots into the woods. He's not aiming at anything, he just shoots. Because you're going to growl at me, I'm going to shoot something in the woods roughly where I think that growl is. He knows he's not going to hit anything because you can't see anything. As he does that, he hears Jenny yell something like he can't make out what she's saying. But he kind of turns and starts walking back, and she's pointing at something. And he turns to look, and he turns and he looks, and there's a lump of mass, pile of mass that he can't see what it is. And he starts to walk over, and he realizes, holy shit, there's one of them. There's one of them. And it's in their yard right next to the wood line, like right there. So he's holding the shotgun, and he's, like I said, he's got his pistol and he's got a rifle. He's got his rifle. It's like a .308 hunting rifle. It's over with the harness on it. And he starts to walk over, and he's, far enough away to where he's got to walk a distance, And as he's maybe halfway to it, his wife screams again. And he looks at her, and she's screaming. And he can't make out what she's saying because his hearing's kind of messed up from the night prior shooting. But he realizes, and he immediately turns around, quickly, and has that shotgun right up. And one is standing, 40, 50 feet from him, looking right at him. And he raises the shotgun, and it drops down onto all fours and just stares at him. And it's looking at him, he's looking at it, but it's not staring directly at him. It had been, but it's not. And all of a sudden it just jumps into the woods, so quick. Even if he wanted to shoot, he may have clipped it, but it was just gone. And he's looking like, what the fuck? Like, and he shoots into the woods once again, not knowing. He just wants he wants to scare him away. And he turns around to go and walk to the one that's down on the ground, and it's gone. It's gone. And he turns and walks back, and he hears his wife, and she said, "It was a distraction. It was a distraction." And he goes in and they talk. And as they're talking, Jenny's realizing, like, these things are smarter than what she thought. These things use each other as distractions. These things, worked as a team, worked as one. They clean up their house, and they don't have any family or friends in the area. Like, they have a couple, friends that the kids play with, but not family or friends that they're going to be like, hey, our house just got, there's fucking dogmen in our backyard. Can we stay at your house? So they're kind of prepping for the next night. And they're talking to each other like, should we just get some shit and bring it into the shelter? Should we, leave? Let's sell that place, let's just... And Matthew's like, I'm not selling. He's like, I'm not leaving. He's like, well, what the hell brought these things here? And he and his wife think that because they put the pool in and there was so much commotion with the excavators and all of that, because when they redid the house, there was commotion, but it wasn't like, excavators going through and, just tons of noise. They decide to, if this night is like last night and worse, then what we'll do is we'll sell. We'll leave and sell. That night comes, and they're trying their hardest not to make it so the kids are afraid or are aware. They're trying to just make it like wild animal had came to the house that night, and that wasn't a monster, it was a bear. They to this day, their kids, and they are older now, not a lot older, but they to this day don't know what all went on that night. They both still think it was bear. So they prep and kind of figure, they come up with a plan that Jenny and the kids are going to stay in the shelter. They tested their cell phones, to see if there could be any communication between each other. And they could get cell phone coverage. She could get his call or text through, because she's underground, not deep underground, but, far enough. So she's going to be under there, and he's going to communicate with her via the phone. And if anything is to happen, get out in the morning and leave, if something bad happens to him that night. So they prep, and right around 7 o'clock, right when it's getting dark again, the kids and her go in. He walks them in and shuts them in and locks the barn and starts walking to the house. And he goes in his house. He turns all the lights off, except he goes upstairs and he leaves a few lights on in the hall. But he's got a clear shot from front to back where he can run to. And so from the back room to their bedroom, he can pretty much see everything. He can see the backyard, he can see the barn, he can see pretty much all his yard. And he's through and he looks out and he doesn't see anything. So a couple hours go by and he starts to see eye shine in the woods. And he's like, shit, they're back already. All right, well, he debates on shooting into the woods. He doesn't. He goes to the front part to check and see if there's anything near the barn. Because where the barn is, he can't see. The barn's on the other side of the pool area, so it's like over here, so he's got to go to that other room, their room, to see it. So everything's okay, and he's keeping an eye there because he can see some eye shine over to the side off to where their driveway kind of would be. And he goes back over, and as he's walking over, he can hear something moving in the woods. He's got the window open so he can look out. And he gets out and he looks and he can see one running away from the house. And it had been bipedal but then dropped to quadruped and ran into the woods. And at that very second, he thought about shooting it. He had put his scope up. He had kind of had it in his sights for what he could see, because it's getting dark, but there's his lights in the yard. He's got a couple pole lights. And he thinks about taking the shot, and he doesn't. For some reason, something said don't. And the whole night goes by. No eye shine, nothing. His house is getting cold because it was cold that night. It was sunny day, and Jenny remembers like mid-60s, beautiful fall day. But it got real cold, and he waits all night. Dawn comes and he starts to walk down. And as he's going out the front door to go get the kids and her, and he calls her. He's like, "We're okay." He's like, nothing happened tonight. He goes, I saw one. He goes, I didn't see anything else. And he's walking by and he goes, "What the shit?" He goes, "What in the hell is that?" And he goes to their deck, and on their deck is a deer. And he looks at it, and it's got a rack on it. It's like maybe a 6 or 7 point deer. Walks out onto the thing and looks at it, and he's looking to see, how badly it had been mauled up by these things. And he's kind of flips it, not really, he can't move it completely, but he's looking, trying to see. And he does see some sort of damage, but he looks, because there's some blood on his deck, and he sees a hole in its neck. And he's like, he's like, I wonder. He gets the kids and gets the wife, tells the wife, don't let the kids in the area. Let me get this thing taken care of. And he gets everything set. He looks at it. He can't move it, so he's got to gut it right there and take care of everything before he can even move it. Puts everything in a wheelbarrow, wheezes it out into the woods. But he's looking at the deer and he's like, there is nothing wrong with this deer. Like, it's got a hole in its neck. There's no scratch marks on it, like it had been shredded or bitten, or he's like, it was just like it was caught and somehow. And he looks, and when I had said just recently about Christopher Whiteley and the woman from Colorado and another person having a quarter-sized hole in their sternum, he remembered that was about the size of the hole in that deer's neck. And he's like, they put this deer on my porch as a gift, maybe? And he takes it and hangs it up, and like he had shot it. He's like, well, I've got to actually, like, now I can't waste the meat. It's cold. It was 29 degrees on that Monday. And it didn't get up to any higher than the low 60s. So he had literally taken care of it and this and that. The next night, they're still planning on getting attacked again, They see some eye shine, but they stay inside their house this time. They have the kids in the basement once again, like day number one, the first day. Some eye shine, and they can see some eye shine looking behind the barn area, looking at the deer. Gone. Couple days go by, they don't see anything anymore, and he takes care of the deer, dresses it. Obviously, he let it bleed out, but it wasn't hanging up for a couple days. But he dressed it and cleaned it up, and put the meat in his freezer. Took the head, brought it to a taxidermist. Still has that 7-point deer head. Put the remainder of the stuff that he can't use in the woods, and just kind of left it be. Couple days go by, he goes out and looks, and anything that was left out there was gone, like just gone. Since that night, since that Tuesday night, the 18th of September of 2018, periodically, very rarely, periodically, they will see eye shine in their backyard. He thinks what happened was the noise from the pool got him stirred up and got him all irritated or whatever. But because he stood his ground, something that his granddad would have done, that they didn't bother him anymore. And they put that deer thing as like, hey, Matthew is not gonna, they live there still, but they are always aware of their surroundings, and every night, they check. He is thought about gifting, putting something out for them. Jenny had kind of put a kibosh to that. Don't do that. Let's just leave it as it is. That was like their token saying, hey, we'll leave you alone. You leave us alone. We understand. This is yours. So, since September 2018, they've maybe seen him 6 or 7 times periodically through those 7 years now, and never had any kind of altercation since. So Matthew really thinks that his granddad had possibly had one of those altercations with these things, and that's why he had that shelter. Firearms in there, firearms downstairs, reloading station downstairs. Now, even though they did renovations on that house, there were certain things about the locks on the doors that Matthew had kept because he knew his grandfather did things. Just anything that was ever done was done with reason. And if need be, he could lock himself somewhere, and if these things came into the house, he could at least fight his way or have one last stand wherever. So fucking crazy, man. Imagine like having a night of hell, getting prepared for another night, and then having a deer carcass left on your porch or your deck. Right, so with that being said, I'd like to thank everyone. Like I said, I hope the new mic is good. I don't know. I'm going to listen to it after. If it's not, I'm sorry. Hopefully it is. And like I said, some renovations are going to be happening down here. I'm going to spend some time tomorrow, the next day, and just do all of my work and everything down here, turn it into a kind of a professional studio instead of just a cluttered mess, which both upstairs and downstairs are. And this way you guys can see the map, see the work that I'm doing on the map. A lot of the work is on New Mexico and Colorado. I'm so obsessed with that. But yeah, we're almost at 100,000, and I never thought that I would ever even remotely be 100,000. I take this research seriously, and I just want to give you guys something back, something better back. So there's definitely going to be large changes happening. So thank you all for all of your support. It is your support that keeps this channel growing and going. And what I mean by that is it's growing, and we are going to new horizons with it. So it's because of all of you guys and all of your support. So we have a place where we can share our experiences and theories, judgment free. There's no BS. We have a great audience, great set of people here. And that's all because of you guys. So thank you. I really can't thank you enough. With that being said, share this information with everyone that you love and care about, because this stuff is real. These events happen. Share it with the people you love and care about. Help them stay safe. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.